Simran, the setup's ready. How much longer?
Vishwas, I need to brush my teeth before your HD camera falls on my face. Give me 10 seconds.
10 seconds? Only 10 seconds for brushing.
What's this now?
Perfora's electric toothbrush, and this is the least that you should do for your oral health. Let me show you how it works.
Jatan, Bawa and Tushar Khurana are the founders of emerging and revolutionary oral care brand Perfora. As Jatan likes to put it, and I quote, हमें legacy brand बनाना है. हम 20-25 साल आराम से बिताना चाहते हैं oral care में. That is all made it to Shark Tank season 2. Colgate 2.0 इंडिया से बनेगा और वो हम बनाएंगे. वो ये बनाएंगे. Hi Jatan, hi Tushar. Welcome to Runway Miles with Simran. For the benefit of everybody, Jatan, Bawa and Tushar Khurana are the founders of emerging and revolutionary oral care brand Perfora. I'd like to say that Perfora is a brand which comes with a promise. And as Jatan likes to put it, and I quote, हमें legacy brand बनाना है. हम 20-25 साल आराम से बिताना चाहते हैं oral care में. And to put it simply, Colgate 2.0 इंडिया से बनेगा और वो हम बनाएंगे. वो ये बनाएंगे. Welcome guys. So guys, across the gathering today, we have Balarpur, Maharashtra, Karnal, Haryana, Indore, Madhya Pradesh. Clearly, we're all products of smaller towns. Would you say that the dream is bigger when the hometown is smaller?
To some extent, I think what happens is that the smaller place you come from and the more exposed you get, it's just different sort of ways to look at it, right? I think in some places that slight little insecurity that you want to get to a place and you want to adjust and you want to become that place. And in your head, you're thinking that the grander you are, the more welcoming that larger town probably will become for you.
Yeah.
But that's probably just one lens. Second, I think, is also being in a smaller town, like again, my father was a second generation business head. Like, my grandfather started something. So growing up, the kind of, I think the respect that you get when you do something, it's probably more easily visible in a smaller town. So from my own personal family instances, that sort of respect or the authority that I felt that certain members in my family enjoyed from society at large also became fuel to some extent that, okay, this is great and this person has this because he's adding value to the society in a particular way, or he's helping somebody in a particular way, or he's adding economic value. But yeah, I think in the gist of it, being a small town person definitely gives you like larger than life dreams to like make it big.
Jatan, what about you? How is coming to Delhi like for you?
Coming to Delhi was a big cultural shift because, the way I put it, there are cities, there are towns, there are smaller towns, and then there's Balarpur. So the anecdote is when my mom got married to my dad and she sort of shifted base from Punjab to Balarpur, Maharashtra, and she tells us very fondly, reflecting back on her journey, my town didn't even have an ice cream parlor, right? For her to indulge in ice cream, right? This was like back in late 80s, early 90s. The only way I would envision life is what I would read in books or what I would see in television or what I would watch in movies, etc. So I had that fetish that I want to go to a larger town because I believed from the get-go that magic happens in bigger cities, larger towns, because that is where the opportunity lies, right? And that is why I moved to Delhi, because I felt if I sort of shift base, I would get more to experience, I would absorb more, I would learn faster. And of course, spending about 16 odd years in a very small town, you're bound to face that cultural challenge. People are so fast, people are so dynamic, people are so ambitious, and you're just still grappling to be at their level. You're still trying to be at par with them. So it took me a little while to get there, but in all in due time, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, taking from what you said, magic did happen, or is continuing to happen. I think for you and for both of you all here. Awesome. So here's something about me, guys. I would like to call myself a highly cognizant consumer. I don't just consume, I also let the products consume me in the process. People are starstruck. You can call me brand struck. And, in my conversation with Jatan, I realized that we share this love for consumer brands. What is the feeling like, guys, to breathe and live in an India every day, which is booming with all these new age consumer brands?
I think the how even we guys sort of connected. We met at this entrepreneurship program, and there
Called
was a
Jagriti Yatra.
called Jagati Yatra. Very chance meeting, quick one, I think, like an hour and a half. And we were there on the program for about 15 days, right? One of our common connects just sort of thought that it would be good that, both of us would vibe. And that's how it started. But again, Jatan at the time was working at Akiva. I think at the time, this was like 2016. And I think consumer in India was just opening up. I mean, consumers always existed, the larger, bigger FMCG brands, crores and crores of net worth, of course. But the new age consumer that you mentioned, that you, Jatan, are really engrossed in, because there's like a way of building that and a way of consuming it. A centerpiece was, okay, we'll meet. Let's meet in Galeria. We'll like probably have a beer, and then we'll go spend an hour and a half at Limache.
Okay.
And that was literally us navigating the aisles. Each of us would do something for 5-10 minutes, then come back to each other, go check this out. There was no idea about starting up back then.
Sure.
It was just, imagine like two friends would probably start or go play, I don't know, tennis together or something else. I think for us, it was those modern trade grocery runs. And it was like good amount of time we would spend, navigate, do that. And that's where like the spark or that love, at least for me, really started building on. I think in Jatan, I just had somebody, whatever new I would discover in a week, 10-15 days. I had like a discussion forum to go back to.
For me personally, I feel there is abundance of choice for consumers, which is a very good thing. Consumers can now decide what brands do they want to consume, and with digital penetration, you're not limited by availability or accessibility, right? Even in a Balarpur, I can choose to order via Amazon a new age brand, whether it's personal care or food, and it'll get delivered to me in 3 days. Not the very next day, but I'll still have access to it. So I feel today consumers can choose the brands, can consume the brands that they personally resonate with. A lot of consumers like me like to consume purpose-driven brands and not just brands who make fancy packaging or a good product, because I want to understand the narrative. I want to go slightly deeper before consuming something. So I feel this is just the beginning of it. Next 15-20 years, next decade or two, we'll see a lot of it. A lot of good brands will pop up to the scene, and people will also become more evolved about what to consume and what not to consume. So I think it's a great place to be in, with so many consumer brands and different narratives coming onto the scene.
Right. So guys, so many untapped opportunities, so many categories. How did you all stumble upon oral care, and how did you know this was it? And was your visit to Le Marche a part of this whole decision making?
So I think there were a few frameworks that we had in place on what we wanted to do before we decided upon what category we wanted to be a part of. One of the things, like I'll just list down a few things that we thought about and how did we come to oral care. One was we wanted to build in a category which was an everyday consumption, and that thought sort of triggered from the fact that we wanted to create impact. We wanted our products, our brand to have a massive impact in the life of a consumer. And if you don't consume something day on day, it's very rare that you would be having the potential of the kind of impact that we want to create. Second, we wanted to operate in a category where we felt there is a brand fatigue for the consumers, right? There's no new brand out there coming out with a new narrative. Third, we wanted a large scope of innovation as well. If a category is already cluttered, for example, let's say fruit juices or let's say face washes, right? There are like hundreds of brands out there with very no to less differentiation or innovation out there today. And we felt, we want that scope of massive innovation in terms of product, features, specifications, technicalities, etc. So I think this was another factor for us that we felt, oral care sort of fits in. And fourth, I would say, like I mentioned and like you sort of described in the introduction, it's a much longer journey for us, right? So we have to be excited for the longer duration. And oral care, it's a tough category to be in. A lot of people, when we were starting out and when we were, getting their inputs on our idea to validate what if they sort of feel our thesis is on the right lines or not, they would say it's good, but it's very tough. Only handful of oral care brands have been built in our country. So there is something that you don't know or something that you're not aware of. You're probably, being very, very optimistic that you'll be able to do this. But there was that leap of faith that we were able to develop by having a lot of consumer interactions during our conceptualization phase, that there is a need for new age oral care brand, and we can go out and build that, or we can take a stab at building it, right? You don't know whether we'll be able to build it or not. So I think these were some of the reasons why we thought oral care seems to, well, one thing that we also knew as a matter of fact, that oral care will be disrupted. It will be revolutionized. There will be better products for the consumers out there. The question in our head was not how, but when. When will that evolution happen? And we were probably a little early on the scene. We started in 2021, but sitting in 2023, that thesis is now being validated because we're seeing so many other brands being launched pretty much every month out here.
I think I love that, when you said that you can only make a significant impact in someone's life when your product is being used regularly to the point of daily. Never saw it that way. Very interesting to hear that. So, guys, we have seen that for years in India, the Indian market has been viewed like almost this dumping station for these large conglomerates to come in and dump their products, simply because, there was no competition, there was unfettered competition. They were able to operate as monopolies and force their products upon, our population. There was indiscriminate use of ingredients, chemicals in all of these products, and there was very little or no accountability for the kind of product composition of these products, right? But, now we're seeing this whole wave of clean label products. Perfora, for example, your toothpaste, like you say, is premised upon being SLS free. It does not have parabens, does not contain chemicals like titanium dioxide, which are questionable ingredients. So in light of all of this, do you think that clean label products will soon or later completely take over everything else?
I think completely, and this is literally what the customer deserves, right? In every aspect of the way. Anything that you're consuming, either topically or you're ingesting, as in when you're evolving and getting better educated, demanding what is literally the best and the cleanest out there just makes the most sense. Which is what, of course, was a big bulb moment for us also, that why is it that when it's the same customer, he's so very educated and does not want those essence or parabens from his personal care products, does not want preservatives in his juices or his packaged food, but yet is like consuming an SLS or a titanium dioxide from his toothpaste. And once he gets to know, he wouldn't want it. I mean, any right person today who has the right standard of living and can afford a decent living would not willingly ever want to come in touch with anything that can be even slightly problematic. Now, the problem is that with a lot of these ingredients, I think science is continuously also catching up. A lot of research that, see what these all conglomerates, and before that, I think before the advent of packaged food, which was probably about 50, 60, 70 years ago, what those products have done, we're only getting to know the results today. So, you had like a J&J case happening where like the payout was in billions about what the talcum powder, where it was coming from.
Tell us a little more about that.
I think it was about a particular ingredient that was being used by J&J. And they got sued, they got taken to the court in the US and they had to like shell out in billions. And I think it was again an ingredient that they were using which was a cancer causing ingredient. I think this came to light sometime around 2015, 2016. But as in when like even something like, so very interesting, even toothpaste, right? There's an ingredient called triclosan, which today you wouldn't found in any toothpaste, but this was again a highly questionable ingredient which only went away from toothpaste sometime in 2015, 16 or 17.
Okay,
So
as recent as.
very recent,
Yeah.
right? So as and when more research comes to light, and of course we have these research think tanks and ingredient research places to thank for, but the more research comes to light, people will want to completely shun anything which they feel is going to be problematic because people want like the cleanest and the best for themselves.
Sure. Jatan, do you have anything to add to?
I think this will happen, and it's an idealistic scenario that we're all hoping for as brand builders, as narrative builders, as evangelists of creating better for you, safe products.
Yeah.
But I also feel the evolution will take time. It's also a function of what price point your product is available in.
Sure.
If I today go to my hometown and start, shouting at the top of my voice, SLS free toothpaste, they'll say, he's gone bonkers.
Yeah.
So I think, the evolution will take time. And that is why I keep saying, or we keep, thinking internally, it's a 20-year game for us.
Yeah.
Nothing before that is going to materialize.
Huh.
So it will happen. And I think even US, it has happened to a large extent, where safe, better for you, cleaner products are now sort of de facto the default options for consumers out there. And I think India is about 10 years away, 15 years away.
Yeah.
But this will for sure be the new normal sometime in 2030s.
Yeah.
I think the way one also has to look at it is that even when you look at India, there are actually 3 or 4 Indias, right? Today, even what Perfora is also building, we're still India one. We're actually not even scratching what Bharat is, which is what he was talking about.
Correct.
I think like to a core, like, there are Bharat brands like Parle Ji or Ghadi, like you
Or
have
Balaji, with the
chips.
distribution.
Yeah, right. So, again, wanting and consuming something, Jatan rightly said, it's always a function of whether your pockets will allow it or not.
Yeah.
If not, you're like sort of happy. But how this journey unfolds from India 1 to India 2 to India 3 is going to be very interesting. Of course, one big role model of sorts there would be somebody like Mama Earth, which today also, like, if you go deeper down also to like a lot of smaller towns,
The penetration is
them,
there, yeah.
and you find them being consumed.
Correct.
Again, completely like all products SLS free. I don't know why those people are buying it, whether it's the marketing or it's the cleaner communication, but more often than not, you'll always see like a solid innovation happening and through time and finding it way to like most of the people.
I think, and also this other day, Jatan and I were having a conversation. He was telling me about, we often wonder that there was some uncle in the family who never smoked, never had alcohol, and, years later, he developed some form of cancer, let's say. Now, we're not really getting into the science there, but we're talking about how these questionable ingredients, when consumed, maybe in insignificant quantities, but for a significant amount of time, and over the years, can obviously pose some kind of a threat, which we don't see today. We're now, I think, beginning to be more alive and aware to this concept. But, because I also come from a legal background, plugging that in, we're now seeing that even from a regulatory standpoint, India is now going to adopt these new set of, draft chemical safety rules, which are completely going to harmonize the standards of Indian products to that of the EU framework or the Western framework. This is generally with the intention of India to make sure that its products are, significant in the global supply chain, and there's no issue with imports and exports. So, for your product to be able to be exported to a country like Europe, which has a certain amount of regulation with regard to product composition. Now, India, I think, with all of this and with these brands, is going to become more and more relevant in the global supply chain. That's very interesting to see. Moving on. Now, since oral care has its roots in medicine, it is a medical category. There is a doctor called a dentist who takes care of oral care. Did you, because of all these reasons, ever consider distribution through the channel of medical representatives, through dentist referrals, through clinics? Did you at all consider that?
I think we understand it's a medical category, and people are also very cautious about what they're going to use, or use as part of their oral hygiene, because in some way or the other you're sort of ingesting the products. But we were very clear to start with to build a different positioning for our brand. We don't want it to be positioned as something that's medicated or something that has to be advised via a dentist. That does not imply in any way that we are trying to, trying to sort of not recognize the efforts or the recommendations of a dentist. We truly value them, and we've also consulted and worked with a bunch of different dentists in our product development process. But it was just that it is not rocket science, right? Your toothpaste is not rocket science. Your toothbrush is not a rocket science. Your mouthwash is not a rocket science. So we've always thought we'll be very close to the consumer. We'll speak and engage directly with them till about a certain scale or stage of our company where we feel that we'll have to start thinking about our distribution via medical reps or via dental clinics. Now we are at that stage where there's a lot of incoming interest via different dentists across the country where they want to know more about our products.
And the ones on Instagram, I'm sure.
The ones on Instagram as well, and they want to just understand what are we doing fundamentally different, and is it truly good for the consumer out there or not. And considering we've done our homework on the product side, they do see the merit in what we are building. So now we are now we're in the process of joining hand with hundreds of dentists across India, where about 20-30 of them have already started, displaying our products, recommending our products via their dental clinics. And I think that'll be one of the distribution channels as we build Perfora in the future.
So it'll be a mix of what I understand, credibility and consumer preference.
I think what we truly value is consumer insight and consumer convenience, and how can we solve for them. Of course, dentist helps us to solve for trust, helps us to solve for credibility, helps the consumer to be more aware about the products that they're going to consume.
Right.
So all these issues get solved, but at the same time, the kind of communication that we built around the brand, we are also able to instill that trust over a period of time. That we are normal human beings, and we genuinely want you to improve your oral hygiene, and this is how you can go about it. And in case somebody wants to dig deeper and understand is it scientifically recommended or not, we also have enough evidence to show that.
I think this was also willingly because looking back, we were like, how do you enter the market? You already had 3-4 brands who had taken a similar route, wherein they would have picked up like a dentist in a lab coat and they're just saying, okay, you use this, like a thumbs up to an XYZ product. What we said is that, look, there are these 5-6 ingredients, let's do the magic. We know that, okay, you guys don't know that, we will do the research, we will do the reading, and we will very blatantly put it out and tell you what it is about. But at the same time, in a category like oral care, which is, I think, still so dead, it's sort of it's a very important aspect because it adds to your overall beauty, the way you look, you're going out to be better presentable, to feel more confident. But like, how do we add more element of excitement to this category? So, which is why I think intentionally the initial leg of the brand was that we have to keep it colorful, we have to keep it playful, we have to make it very, very inviting. Because in our experience, one short way of getting people interested in something is you build some hype or you build some excitement around it. So that, of course, put the entire dentist to the front piece on the back burner. But I think now that we've already serviced a lot of customers and people understand what it is that we're trying to build, we're, of course, actively, eventually, those guys are great. Dentists are the solid propagators of good oral health. We have amazing products which are cleaner than a lot of the products available in the market. And we're super happy to have them further our mission.
If we look at oral care as it stands in India currently, now most of us brush our teeth. There are some of us who take the pains of adding a tongue cleaner and a mouthwash to their routine, right? You guys at Perfora take this a notch higher, where you introduce these water flossers and teeth whitening products. what is the strategy, guys, to create this premium sort of a oral care segment within the oral care segment? What is your strategy in that regard?
So there, I think it's what we're trying to build is oral care in itself is a very small focus category. Now to survive and to build a kind of business that our investors can be happy about,
Yeah.
we really have to go very, very deep. And anything and everything that you want to think of oral care, we should be able to provide that.
Sure.
Whether you want to think of a chewing gum to like freshen your breath, you want to think of a mouthwash, you want to think of a flosser, you want to think of like a probiotic or a supplement you want for like stronger teeth, whatever it is, I'm just sort of throwing it out. So I think the idea is not that always to build a premium brand. How we always look internally is that we will always have these volume builders and the brand builders. So a lot of products that you speak about, like a unique teeth whitening product or something like a water floss is a brand builder for us.
And
People.
And what would you say are the volume builders?
So a toothpaste is a volume builder. Toothbrush, certain iterations of it, of course, an electric toothbrush would not be a volume builder, but as and whenever we do more iterations of products which are more affordable, they would be volume builders. We intentionally never sort of meant it to be, but the teeth whitening powder plate. So even when you go for teeth whitening, you've got a serum format, you've got a toothpaste format, you've got a powder format, you've got like a bray or a strip format. So some of them are great from a brand builder and image and a positioning point of view, because we want people to trust us for certain things that they want Perfora for. But a lot of things that you will consciously use on an everyday basis, which would be like a usual toothbrush or a toothpaste for us, would be, like a volume builder. And again, in our journey at different scales, those mixes will keep changing.
Right.
Maybe the teeth whitening powder or a tongue cleaner today is a volume builder for us.
Correct.
But maybe at a larger scale, we sort of would not categorize it as that. But to your question, the idea is not to build a premium oral care brand. The idea is very much to build a brand for all of India and service people at different price points. Of course, we're sort of very young and, because we're a digitally native brand, we today appeal to a certain sect of audience which probably is slightly more premium. But our aspiration going forward has always been that how can we help a larger section of people solve for better oral care?
Right.
And this, of course, we're going to do by doing better products with better ingredients and also pushing the larger narrative, because it's also a very habit thing. You have to consciously want to solve for oral care, and that habit forming will happen in the right way. Of course, we at Perfora want to play or partake a larger role in that. But I think, that's what the thought there is.
Jatan?
I think, like I completely agree with what Tushar has mentioned, and I do believe we're trying to solve for unsolved problems. Teeth whitening is not something that we want to premiumize. We feel it's a genuine need. There are consumers out there who go for a professional whitening treatment every 6 months or every year, and it's very expensive, and it's also damaging to your enamel, to your oral teeth health, oral health. So we feel that we want to sort of make it more DIY. We want to make it more value for money. We want to make it more accessible, and that's the entire strategy, right? That we don't want to be a premium brand. Of course, it can be an aspirational looking brand because we want to evoke that emotion. But the idea is to create products that are value for money, that are effective, that require minimal expert assistance.
Right.
So I think that's the broad strategy that we've been following so far.
Guys, so what is interesting to watch is that the Indian consumer is becoming more and more aspirational. There is obviously an increase in purchasing power. With that, we're seeing pretty much a shift from personal care to this concept of self-care, which is a broader concept involving these indulgent self-care rituals pretty much. And I feel like in this background, Perfora comes at an appropriate time where, for example, you all offer this toothpaste which comes in a morning-evening concept, right? Where one morning toothpaste is supposed to have ingredients that wake you up, refresh you for the day, while the toothpaste in the evening is supposed to unwind, relax your gums. One would incorporate it as a part of their night routine, let's say. How does it feel to enter the market at this time with this aspirational consumer that you're dealing with?
I think the idea from our end was, like you mentioned, consumers have become aspirational, consumers have become indulgent, but they were not doing something for their oral care, because oral care was not a part of their self-care. It was still a monotonous chore that they would do day in and day out. And we wanted oral care to be part of that self-care bucket, that self-care consideration. And that is where the entire thought process of coming with a toothbrush and beautiful colors that you'd want to sort of pick up and be more excited about brushing, or coming up with a toothpaste which is specifically meant for your morning routine, and coming up with a toothpaste that's specifically meant for your evening routine or nighttime routine came about. So that was the entire thought process. And we still feel we have still a long way to go in terms of making oral care a part of their self-care regime for a good percentage of Indian population or Indian consumers. But it's a start that we've had. And as we continue to build the brand, it will take us a while to instill that message that oral care is the new self-care.
Which is a t-shirt says, right? The
Yeah.
Shark Tank. I don't know if that's your team t-shirt.
Yeah, we've had a couple. But yes.
But yes,
It's
and
like-
Tushar, I think you started with that, like at least you had this whole thing about skincare के लिए तो बहुत products है, oral care का क्या,
Yeah.
So I think
I think in that line, if you pick up this aspirational consumer also, right? Why is he aspirational? Because he she wants to consume products which are a reflection of his personality and his identity.
Sure.
Of course, personally, if you take back, they are inside the washroom, so you cannot really see those products. But from the sort of sunglasses they are wearing to the sort of bags that they're carrying, or the shoes, or the apparel, or the accessories, right? Like every single thing or every brand, which is why purposeful brand, because you wear them and you're feeling a certain thing. And you're like, yeah, this is my vibe, and which is I want to do that. But this is same percolated down to personal care as well. The idea of having those 6 different very interesting colors is because a person is like, yeah, this is my color, and I want to wake up every morning and I want to use a toothbrush which looks and feels like that, because that is who I am.
and has a rising sun on it pretty much.
Or,
Setting the tone for your day.
or has whatever initials that pump you up or make you feel good, because which is where aspirationality has come from. You're like everything or most things, people want them to be an extension of themselves, which was completely missing from oral care. You could not. I don't want to diss any of our legacy competition, but today a Gen Z or a millennial would not wake up and say that, okay, I vibe with this brand, because they cannot. They don't know where they are. It's a 160, 200-year-old brand, reformed in life. Of course, whatever good they've done, but today's customers' needs are not just for trust and quality.
Yeah.
They're also about what will this brand make me feel about myself.
Yes.
And so having a good product is the bare minimum. वो तो चाहिए ही. Like if you're a brand, वो तो करना ही है. But then what beyond that?
Yeah.
Which is where I think we feel very lucky that we entered oral care right at that time. I think we were lucky or stupid or smart enough to sort of pick this up when oral care was like completely missing.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, I think oral care is has a larger meaning in the sense of it also translates to your gut health. How much, which a lot of people don't even know. In fact, I have found out very recently. So more reason, I believe, for people to incorporate it as a part of their self-care.
And for us to be excited about our mission, like, which is what exactly, like, you
We're
want to
all-
solve for health and gut, and like, again, it's the gateway to your body.
Yes.
And the more you nurture and take care of it, the better it's gonna sort of give back to you.
Sure.
I think that's the idea. But again, I think a very, very long way from getting that across. It's gonna take time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And a lot of effort on your end.
But 25-year journey it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long haul that we plan. Right. So, guys, we're now looking at, you spoke of traditional brands, the market leaders of the oral care industry that have dominated it for years. We're now looking at, generally across categories, we're looking at traditional brands trying to pivot and trying to cater to new age consumer demands. And we're also seeing that for brands in the oral care space, where they're coming up with newer SKUs, newer products, newer packaging for that matter, that shift from the horizontal label packaging to a vertical packaging. They're stands out in your bathroom, like the Perfora toothpaste does in my bathroom personally. So, how do you view this competition coming in from the traditional Goliaths of your industry?
I think it is very, very welcome. It is much, much needed. We feel very good that we were the harbingers of that change for them. The customer needed it, never demanded it. We put these legacy folks, we actually push them to ensure that they're innovating. They're doing products which serves all of our customers better. So it's like very, very welcome. We're glad that we've been able to push them, and now they are doing these innovations. Of course, we'll also further innovate more, do better stuff, and I think at the end of it, the customer wins, which I think is the most beautiful outcome. So that's how I look at it.
I think torch bearers of keeping a check at innovation in the industry, you guys are.
Which is what I think any insurgent brand or any disruptor does, right?
Yeah.
How do you shake things up?
Yeah.
And once you do, then the customer's going to win, and that's what we started with, and we'll continue to do that.
And I personally am a huge, as a consumer, it is very important for competition to exist in any industry. Because that's what ensures A, innovation, B, the quality standards can't fall with time. With growth, you can't, we've seen so many big brands over the years that have compromised on or have added ingredients to their products that have in fact been worse off than what they started out with. So I think competition is only there to keep things better for the consumer. Yeah. I'll say that as a consumer at least. Right, guys. So now with certain categories, the flavor becomes, or the taste profile becomes a very big pillar of attracting brand loyalty. So let's say, if we talk of, there'll be healthy alternatives to a Maggi actually let's not say that. There'll be healthy alternatives to, a noodle brand or a chocolate brand, but because consumers are so used to the taste which was created in the first place, they'll be brand loyalists, right? Now I know we're talking about toothpaste here and not food, but a toothpaste is also, quite frankly, the first thing you put in your mouth in the morning, right? And over years of consumption of certain, brands, people have found comfort in that taste. People are very used to that mouth feel in the morning over years of use. How do you guys plan to break through that?
I think, there is always a cohort of consumers who are more experimental than the rest, right? And the true and the simplest way, and probably the organic way of building a brand or spreading a product, is that if you're able to, entice that one cohort, or, really make them your evangelist or loyalist of your product, is how the word spreads. Hey, I tried this new toothpaste, the flavor is next level. I haven't tried something on these lines before, and and if this person sort of speaks to 10 people, it'll probably rub off on 3 of them, right? And those 3 guys will go out and probably give us a try. That's one. Second way of making consumers try more of our products is through being available where the consumers are, making them try our products. So we participate in a lot of flea markets, a lot of co-working setups where we try and tell people more about oral care, where we try and sort of hand over samples of our toothpaste to those guys, so that it's a 10 gram, 25 gram toothpaste sample, you wouldn't mind, even if you wouldn't want to change the toothpaste right away the next morning, but as in when you travel, you want a miniature of the toothpaste, right? And that is when they try our product and they experience a better product, a better mouthfeel, a newer taste. And some people like it, some people don't. It's always subjective. That's how it has been for food. But as you continue to learn more from your consumer insights, you try and understand, okay, hey, this is what consumers are liking, this is what consumers are not liking, but that could be a different segment of the consumers, and you can sort of come out with a new flavor that might entice that cohort of consumers. So I think that is how we are going about it. We're still in the process of figuring it out, so I don't have a very clear answer to how are we going to win, but it's a work in progress.
But a very good thing there for us is that you rightly said, people don't want to Like I have friends my age, they use like okay, let me not say the brand, but it's yuck. But the thing about taste is that once you get habituated to it, it's very hard to let go.
Yes.
Now here we're coming with, so it's like we're coming with like, 6-7 information guns.
Yeah.
One being like a better ingredient, one being SLS free. So there's a lot of might that we're bringing, that why should you switch that?
Oh.
If we're able to make you switch, you will get habituated to this product. And then we'll have you as a Perfora customer, hopefully for life, right? So the harder bit of this also makes it easier for us in the longer run. That if we're able to use 3-4 extra nudges to make that one switch, and we've got like great tasting products, great tasting flavors, pick any one and then you stick with it for like an eternity, hopefully.
And once somebody uses Perfora, of course, 20 days later, we are going to receive that email that you all send, with the comic strip talking about, we believe your toothpaste is getting over. I think it's time for a refill. Love that nudge. I think it's a great way to connect with your consumers. So, guys, recently I discovered you all on Blinkit, now on Zepto, Instamart, everything. You're finally on all these apps, and I was very happy because I'm a consumer of Perfora. I would say I am personally very, very spoiled by these instant delivery apps. मैं घर से निकलना बंद कर दिया है मैंने pretty much. All of it comes from through these apps. What is your opinion on this quick commerce revolution, and what do you think it means for you and for brands in general?
Very interesting, like when we were with Swiggy Instamart, and that time we had our first iteration of the toothpaste, which was like slightly expensive, and we had the powder and the mouthwash, and it wasn't going that well. I was very like anti. I'm like, quick-com doesn't make sense. Who's gonna buy like percentages? And Jatan kept at it. Just like, no, like we gotta do this. Like it's I was more like offline. He's like, no, this is the proxy to offline. Like you make this work. And I was like, chalo theek hai.
But it comes at a cost, like this.
So at the time I was very like, kuch banega nahi, unit economics, kuch aise, chalo theek hai, kar liya. But now I think I am so thankful for it. It is about 10% of our business today, and all of our customers, like you rightly mentioned, us. I think he does it probably more than I do, but anything, right? You just like in your sleep, I'm like blinking and like you're sort of getting something. And the fact is that when you go to an offline world, you cannot compete with the big boys, or maybe they were not focusing, but here you can maybe get like the right masthead or the right this thing. So it's still easier to compete with a big boy on quick com versus the modern trade or the Khurana store, because they're like, you don't have the tools. So I think my little piece there is that for me as a customer, and for me as a customer, quick commerce is here to stay. And hopefully for me as a business, quick commerce stays, because it really helps solve for distribution. You can really iterate, launch new things, make us available, and not just one place, right? Like I can be in 20 cities by just supplying products to a warehouse. The margin things and other things sort of will make sense of, but people are spending time on these apps. These apps are pushing things, helping us drive larger narratives, helping us build the brand as well. The more you see it, the more imagery and other things you see, sort of it helps out. So for me, as a customer, as a seller, it's a blessing.
I think from our viewpoint, quick commerce is democratizing the distribution. Like what Tushar mentioned, it gives us a similar playing field to an incumbent out there. As an insurgent brand in oral care category, we're also able to push through the narrative, that oral care is important. It shouldn't be something that you have to pre-plan months in advance, and you don't have to buy loads of it at one go. The cost of trying a new brand, new product can be relatively low. You can get it in 10, 15, 20 minutes. And, it feels good that, with certain channel partners of ours for quick commerce, we've been able to, push them to do, specific activities for oral care. One of the partners does oral care Sundays, where they're trying to sort of push oral care as a narrative on their app. Right. So it feels good that, we're part of that ecosystem. We're able to, get insights and get consumers to try our brand and try our products, even when they're searching for a competitive brand, and we're at the end of the day trying to make the life of a consumer easier by getting a product delivered in pretty much no time.
I am guilty of ordering a Perfora toothpaste. When I even know what margin sort of going, but I knew it was like, okay, this is sort of going, and yeah, 7
Like, this is like, it's
there.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy that the guy who's making the toothpaste is ordering from Blinkit, which is really something. You're already making a point here. Guys,
My D2C person is gonna kill me. She doesn't know yet. Now she knows.
I know. Right. Guys, so you at Perfora are very huge on, like I mentioned, these nudge emails, the emails in general that, they're very creative. You all have a running stream of emails that go to your customers even after they've purchased the products. I personally, have been a consumer of Perfora even before you all appeared on Shark Tank. So I think I remember the day your episode was going to be aired, I received an email from Jatan because he shoots emails to everybody from his ID, and I received this email with a subject line saying, "Did Perfora make it?" And I was already a consumer. I was very excited to see the episode. I think I was watching one of the initial episodes of Shark Tank, but I specifically went to the relevant episode and watched your pitch. I feel this is a great way of maintaining that association with your consumers. How important is this association to you guys, and how important do you think it should be for brands in general?
I think it all starts from our DNA on how we think, right? For us, we felt as consumers, emails were not being effectively utilized to build a narrative. They were just being used as sales promotion to sell more products per se. Whereas when we were starting out, we took a conscious call, and when we probably had only about 200 people who had subscribed to our emails because they bought products from us, that will give them a different narrative altogether, where the medium will be to talk about our narrative as humans and not even as brand, right? We try and talk about things that no brand today talks about via emails. Those are personal stories, professional stories, those are internal stories of what goes behind building Perfora, building the brand, and just talking about what is our thought process behind a specific product launch. Whom do we look up to? We've written an email in the past where I very vividly remember now when season 1 of Shark Tank had ended with an email subject line saying, "We'll miss our 9 p.m. show." Right? Where we talked about what it meant to us and what kind of brands do we look up to. We love the fact that entrepreneurship in India is becoming more mainstream, and it will sort of inspire next sort of people in our country to start more often and do it better. So I think that association means a lot, because every time we shoot out an email to our subscribers, probably 1% or 2% of those guys come back to us, right? How did they discover the brand? What do they feel about it? What can we improve? Because we're not perfect, right? It's an evolving process of making better products, getting better at service in terms of delivery, in terms of our responsiveness. So we receive fair bit of encouraging feedback where people are gaga about our brand, and whereas we also receive fair bit of people telling us, guys, you can do these 5 things better, and I really appreciate if you work on it. And we sort of acknowledge all of it and take that in and go back and make those changes, and then sort of put it out for our community that these are the things that we've changed over the last month or 2 months or over a quarter. So I think that relationship means a lot to us, and we're very blessed, I would say, that people value those emails. People read those 7 to 10, 12-minute long reads on a Sunday, and then also take the pain and effort to reply, right? Not many people do it.
Perfect. So guys, we have now reached the point in our conversation where we must address the elephant. That is, you all made it to Shark Tank season 2. And before we get into it, would you agree when I say that if one were to make an entrepreneurial timeline for India, that Shark Tank will be a milestone on it?
For sure. I think entrepreneurship, the 0 to 1 of entrepreneurship has been playing out in the country in the last decade, 2010 to 2020. But the role of mainstreaming entrepreneurship is what that mantle is with Shark Tank. It's doing it so well.
Yeah.
I think we go around, like, it's just everywhere, and it's amazing that in our country today, people want to look up to anybody just creating and building something. It's a very legit option and something that will get, like, people know that it's not easy, and they're very inspired and they're very happy, or they're very proud that okay, this person's sort of doing this. It's a very different mind frame than maybe 10-15 years where, typical India, that not even a private job, government job, safety versus now being like, if you're building something, that's awesome. So it's definitely going to be a solid milestone. Actually, it is something which came and it gave proof to what the country was thinking at the time. When season 1 came, it was anybody's guess, right, whether it would work or not. But it worked, and it worked tremendously well.
Yeah.
So which was like there was this inner sort of fire that was waiting to find its way to sort of appreciate this. Literally like level, like uncles, aunties, anybody just talking about gross margins, EBITDA levels, which is great.
Do you have anything to add to this, Jatan?
I think, what Shark Tank has primarily done, in addition to what all Tushar mentioned, has made that conversation with your family easier about starting up.
Oh, yes.
I think one of the biggest roadblocks that I faced, despite my father running his own business, like he's never worked for anyone, right? And he's always been an entrepreneur right from the time he started working. Because parents are very protective, right? They want the best for their kids. And entrepreneurship, by the very nature of it, is, uncertain, ambiguous. You don't know how it will pan out. So what Shark Tank has done is, made that conversation for somebody to start up relatively easier, because when you see someone on television, on national television, your parents are watching, they become comfortable. Okay, kids of their kids' age are starting up and doing some amazing things.
They're like, tum bhi karo.
and they sort of go and poke, or probably if somebody's sort of already having that conversation, they become more accepted. There's more acceptance.
Yes.
So I think that is the real thing that Shark Tank has done from my viewpoint.
It's typically as like maybe earlier way that doctor banega, engineer banega, and now the new thing is that entrepreneur banega.
Yeah, I love that.
I think I read a stat somewhere, probably on Shadi.com, one of the most searched profiles for potential grooms was entrepreneur and founder, and that sort of surpassed engineers, doctors.
I have friends who are
lawyers.
Hinge, the dating app. They will look for is someone working for like a disruptive kind of a startup? Is someone a founder? Someone working for a tech startup or not? Like instead of now if they see someone's like a businessman and they're like immediately that's a swipe left. So this is, I think that's really something.
So I think it just talks a lot about of the economy of the country as of coming of age, and now we have the platform to really like build and literally like we sort of know how many jobs have to be created for us to like make benefit of this demographic dividend. Entrepreneurship is the best way for that to happen. The fact that it is already mainstream now, I think, and if it can continue like this and people can really do path-breaking businesses and ideas, because India has its own sort of problems and its own inner solutions can only solve for that. It's not that we can get a copy paste from somewhere else and just put it here.
Yeah.
It's a unique sort of place, different population, and as you were speaking, 2-3 different kinds of Indias all need its own solutions. So yeah, I think a brilliant time to just be in India and figuring things out.
Alright guys, so how has the post Shark Tank experience been for you guys?
I think it's been amazing. still, reeling and recovering from all of that. It's
Yeah.
been what? It's been about 45 odd days. And I mean, in a lot of different aspects, right? If you talk about the impact it had on business, which again was very overwhelming. And it's not something that you can really prepare for, right? So we've been stretched, the team's been stretched. It's, I think, really taken a lot, all in good way, but it's really like, in like great ways, pushed the team and tested. So that's sort of been one piece. Second, of course, it's just been the general external validation that personally I feel, whether it be friends, relatives, random people.
Yeah.
I remember there was this instance of somebody. So we were going to co-work and somebody just saying that she wanted a selfie with us, and I was like, okay. So it was quite
Surreal.
different.
Yeah.
Then to the fact that just in general, I think you put in we've been putting in the work. Shark Tank sort of come in and help us get that recognition sort of early on, which has been great. But coping on the work side, sort of people side, other people wanted to come in and wanted to understand, doing a lot more of like interacting with the external world and putting the story out. Been a great platform and asset that way. But personally, I think I'm still like coming to terms with where it is. And also for me now, there is also a certain amount of paranoia that's sort of come in, wherein as a business, I also don't want to lose whatever's coming. So it's also very like so yeah, like all in good tips, but just sharing complete candid thoughts about like the post Shark Tank feel. And I mean, we had a live screening party. We did it. We live screened it on Instagram. The team was there. Close friends were there. Everybody like had a blast.
Yeah.
It was also those emotions. I think it was crazy because we did not know what's gonna happen. I think I went mad just knowing that, okay, we're the first pitch of the day. Because I think that was important to us also. Something as small as that. Look, if you're sort of the first one. And then, like a lot of things, because again, the actual episode was much longer, 90 minutes. What we saw was just about 17, 18 minutes. But we were very, very lucky. The way they showed, all the conversation that they showed, the backstory that they came to our place, our office in short, I think it all made us look in great light. Showed this story of two small town boys trying to take on the biggies and do good stuff for the world and for the customer. So that was great. Great.
And if I were to ask you very quickly, what is it like in a meeting room with all the sharks that you got on board? What is it like in a meeting room with Peyush, for example?
I think it's pretty normal to sort of break the myth. It's not that when you're sort of having an interaction with someone who's accomplished something, and we've also been to some extent fortunate that we have a network of people that have accomplished a lot in their life. So we're not very mesmerized when we meet a Peyush or a Vineeta. Of course, we have massive respect for what those guys have built and accomplished in their lifetime.
Right.
But it's a conversation, of course, I think for the first 5 minutes, you might be a little more starry-eyed, but I think once those 5 minutes go by, and it's a conversation about business, it's a conversation about challenges, it's a conversation about what lies next for us, or from our end, we try and also understand and learn what are the kind of experiences that they have had, right? Something that is not out there for general public to know, and something that they can share more in private with us. So it's a typical conversation that we would have with any of our investors or a mentor or somebody that we look up to.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's nothing more apart from that.
Peyush is like very detailed. Very like questions, going deeper, digging deeper, kept digging. No counter, no nothing, no just. It's more like just very detailed. Yeah.
He's my favorite on that panel. But like, what kind of insight? Like, who do you think you borrowed some really insightful views from, and you genuinely incorporated it in your journey from them?
I think it's a little early for us to incorporate anything because, like Tushar mentioned, we're still overwhelmed with all the kind of response that we have, seen and experienced in the last 45 odd days. One of the key things that we now realize, which a couple of people have told us, like a couple of sharks have told us, that we have to be very cognizant of our working capital, and we're trying to make sure that we sort of have a very strong eye on our working capital, because that can make or break our business. So I think that's been a very relevant advice / insight so far.
We were also like in a meeting or in a room together with Vineeta and her husband Kaushik. That again, I mean, if the answer for Peyush was detailed, that was very like energetic and fun and more, sort of a different energy altogether. Of course, they were sort of trying to understand, really trying to give how can we get the customer excited. Also, very similar in the makeup and the beauty sort of space, and they sort of understand the consumer in a different way altogether. But yeah, there were like a lot of ideas around what can be done about product or consumer or just awareness or certain things that you have to do to like sort of be there and stand out.
Just generally, how do you guys manage these multiple expectations that you have from your brand, alongside expectations of exit that an investor might have? Along with that, there is this general pressure of maybe the investor wants you to take a certain direction. How do you align all this and stay focused still?
I think it's still like sort of, we're also like in it right now. So we don't really know what's happening, what's not, taking it like a week or on a go or a month on a go, and trying to like literally explore what is not. What we've been lucky with is that the set of investors have been not sort of like a free hand, but they understand that they took a bet on us. And then they truly have trusted us with their money for us to do and build this the way we told them that, we do. They understand that there would be a few kickbacks or things moving around here and there, but all in all, these guys are heading into a right direction. Of course, we catch up with them every now and then, once a month, do those check-ins, but largely the control of the narrative is pretty much with us. So that's been one good, that both the set of investors that we have, they understand that and they respect that thought process that we bring to the table. Second, I think even for us, so you are a founder and an owner of the business, but at the same time, with the investor being, you are answerable to a shareholder, and we've literally put this check or this massive push or this massive ambition behind us by choosing to partner with them or getting them on board, because there is this constant urge or this little nudge to want to do things faster, because now you have access to all these people. Of course, digital's made things easy. You've got this money also, so you want to reach like a lot more people, a lot more quickly, with a lot more products, a lot more channels. But driving all of that, executing all of that is also comes with its own set of challenges, right? Like you literally have to maybe break an extra sweat. And in that ways, of course, we've also been very lucky to have an amazing team. Very smart, very dedicated, high on ownership. Also, it's all like a family today. Everybody brings their heart to the workplace and gives it their all, and is very, very intertwined and very, very like soaked into what is it that Perfora sort of wants to get across. So there's been those good pieces, that luck piece there. That has been a big constant support direction to navigate what is it those day in day out decisions we're supposed to take, or how do we keep up with the expectations of the shareholders and our own ones. It's been a small ride so far. A lot of good days, a lot of like really bad months as well.
Right.
And in those times, I think we've just kept our heads down and executed, and we know that eventually it sort of works out. So far it has.
Yeah.
At times it probably takes a little longer, at times it happens quickly. But yeah.
The way you get into a relationship when you're trying to date someone, you don't know how this will pan out, right? Of course, you try and sort of do your due diligence, but during the relationship, you will evolve, you will learn more about the person, there will be, whatever expectations have been set earlier on, they will also be realigned at some point in time, because you'll get to know each other better. It's the same way with the investor-founder relationship. It evolves over a period of time. You get to know how do they like to operate. They get to know more about you. And it's important that it's a happy relationship for the greater outcome for the investor, for the founder, and both the entities are striving towards a good outcome at the end of the day. So I think we're also learning in that process. We don't know all of it today. We're also learning with every transaction, with every new investor that we end up having on board, with every conversation that we have. Sometimes there have been times where we have said no to investment because we feel these guys won't be a good fit for our personality or the way we operate or what kind of goals we want to accomplish.
And it's a relationship. So,
it's a relationship, right?
And a lot of no's that we've got.
Yeah, of course. And we've received hundreds of them and we've probably given tens of them. But we've also chosen to look at it with more objectivity and subjectivity before we get someone on board.
Right. Alright guys, so we have now come down to the last and final segment of our chat, which we like to call the dog fight. Now, the dog fight in aviation terms is the aerial battle between two fighter aircrafts conducted at a close range. So here I will be attacking you all with some tactical questions and we'll see how you maneuver around and combat these. Are we ready, guys?
Yeah, bring it on.
Alright, let's go for it.
I'm a little nervous.
That's okay. Let's see if you succumb. Tushar, what is your favorite product from the Perfora line? Why?
It's the electric toothbrush. Why? Because, I went around and I have used all of them and some were too jarring. This is just like, I can't begin my day without it. I absolutely love it.
Lovely. Jatan, your message to emerging competitors in the oral care space?
It's going to be tough and be ready for some bad days, bad months. It's not at all easy.
Tushar, what according to you is the most important attribute for an entrepreneur?
Humility.
Right. And why would you say that?
I think because it's a very long journey and I think anything beautiful can only be built. If you're building something large, it will come about by a team or like a larger group. For you to be humble and know that it's not you, but all of you together who are building that, to sort of accept that and know that really early on. And let even your people know, right? Because they are literally sacrificing their life to build your dream.
True.
So I think humility there, sort of for me, I mean, of course, there are a lot of other, because you just asked for one specific one, which for me, top of my head is humility.
Humility is the attribute, right? Jatan, one shark you regret not having on board?
Aman Gupta.
Why?
But I think he's a great marketeer. He's built a beautiful brand in a short span of time period. It's a very popular brand. So he definitely understands something about consumers that we don't today, or maybe other sharks don't. So yeah.
Maybe sometime soon. Maybe sometime eventually. Right. Tushar, one thing you do to keep yourself sane on a crazy day?
On a crazy day, podcasts are my go-to thing. I have heard podcasts left, right, and center, India, Europe, America.
Yeah.
There are a lot of consumer brands and businesses that I'm so fanatically crazy about. And literally getting to the level and knowing the stories behind them. Some have literally been like 10-year struggles for like a one-night phenomenon to happen. But knowing that and hearing that really pumps me up.
Right. Jatan, one thing you do to keep yourself sane on a crazy day?
I would want to, I typically have a conversation with a friend of mine, share a little bit about the challenges that I am facing, hear them out. I think that sort of calms me down, and it sort of gives me more comfort that, okay, if I am facing XYZ set of challenges, so is other person. And it's okay, this will pass. So I think conversation in my case really helps with a colleague, with a team member, with a close friend, with family, somebody.
Right. Tushar, कंपनीज आती है, कंपनीज खत्म हो जाती है, एंड में कंपनीज वो जीतेगी जो लॉन्ग टर्म सोचेगी. योर थॉट्स ऑन दिस स्टेटमेंट बाय पीयूष?
बिल्कुल apt है. It's very very apt. Of course, and we've known that even like in like what happened in 2014, 2015, 2016. Today, I know of so many startups which came, raised a lot of money, and then sort of fizzled out. Of course, the duration of that can be different, but having your eye at the goal and having your unit economics fundamentally in place. Like as I was saying, right, what we're also hearing, working capital. Cash is king, boss. As long as you have cash, like our only goal in the next 8-9 years is to stay alive. As long as you're doing that,
Yeah.
It's sort of okay.
And once that's done, you're looking.
Then then gradually the level comes. So there's a very interesting statement that like it's sort of known that compounding literally happens like that. Like if you look at any big company, right? If you compare the first 10 years and then the next 10 years, look at the compounding that happened from year 11 to 20. And if you take the same company and then look at what it did from year 21 to 30, it's crazy. So compounding literally happens in decades. And, in India, we're like sort of really early on where we're monitoring the effect like every year or 2 years, or VC cycles are like 5 years, 7 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
So companies जाएंगी end में जो long term सोचेगा, those guys will stick and then create massive compounding and amplification for everybody around.
Very well. Jatan, you recently were judging a mock Shark Tank at a college in Delhi University. In one sentence, what did that feel like? Take two if you
I think I felt inspired by seeing kids, probably 8 years junior to me, thinking of business ideas, creating presentations, having the courage to pitch and believing in themselves. So I really felt inspired in one sentence.
Lovely. Tushar, if an investor gives you your dream valuation but asks you to move Perfora to Bombay, what would you say?
Wow, I do it.
You do
but
it.
but actually, the location is not so much of a problem for me. The valuation is, because any valuation investor I have to grow into it. Whether I can do it or not do it, I'll rethink that. Because I don't want like a valuation that I'm going to take 5 years otherwise to grow into, and then literally wanting to have to do it in 1 year. And it'll probably like I think there's only 5-10% chances of that happening successfully. So happy to move that, but
no affiliation to Delhi. You'd leave Delhi if it's for your brand.
If it's for my brand, yes.
Lovely, beautiful. Jatan, one thing you do to stay productive.
One thing that I do to stay productive, I don't know. I think I'm not that productive.
with all this that you built, you'd still maintain that statement.
Yeah. I think my personal productivity can be 10x more. I can be a lot more efficient. So I don't think so I'm productive. And that's a good sort of trigger from your end for me to think, more about productivity.
Right, not intentional. Tushar, one thing you do to stay productive.
I try and read every now and bit and really pick up instances that can be done to make things better.
Right.
And of course, like I like to like work out every morning to keep just my mind
What
sane.
kind of a workout do you do?
It's just a very light, quick 40-45 minute. Maybe some days it'll have weights, some days probably like a quick.
But you do it yourself. It's a solo thing.
I also have like a membership, so I probably would go to like a gym close by as well. But some days at home as well. But I do try to get that 40-45 minutes, and also like age catching up, and you want your brain to function well, and all of those things. It's a good productivity hack. Actually, if nothing else, it just tells me, I did one thing today for myself. If sort of nothing else, of course, like a lot of other things, but it's like categorically something that I intentionally try to do every single day for my health, and it also helps me be more productive.
Beautiful. Jatan, you mentioned Licious is your favorite brand in India. Tell us why.
I think they've solved a real problem. The house that I grew up in, there was a butcher's market right in front of it, and it was not a very pleasing sight. The meat buying experience was not at all something that I would personally look forward to. And with Licious, I think they've solved a problem for fresh, high quality, unadulterated meat being delivered at your doorstep within 90 odd minutes, which can sort of really improve your cooking experience and even the final dish in this case. So I'm a big I'm big on cooking, food. I like to cook to de-stress, cook for my friends and family. So yeah, I think having access to high quality meat is really helpful. And I love the narrative as well on what they've mentioned on packaging, how they've sort of personified their customers. So a lot of things, I think they've done it right.
Awesome. Tushar, which brand besides Perfora is your favorite and why?
For me, I really like Epigamia for of course, it's like a healthy, quick sort of snack to go to. Again, something I can end up consuming on an everyday sort of basis. And I love the story, like even where the name came from. I think the name comes from the fact that it was like literally a merger of, like really long back, going back when Alexander the Great and Porus India, the battle happened, and when they called it off, it was like a merger of like the West and the East, and it's like the name origins, the color that they use, the kind of product that they have, flavors that they've got. Also, like it's healthy. So like a lot of those reasons, like really, I think helps me add value to like being that snack for me.
Great. This one's for both of y'all, and this is the last question. The funniest reaction received from friends, family, relatives on revealing that you wish to enter the oral care category.
So I literally have this friend, and he's like made a joke of everything that I've ever done, So like I've been at different places earlier, right? So he was like, "Chal ab tu toothpaste बेचेगा, ठीक है?" Because it goes from like I was at home, so he's like, "तो तू room बेचने से, फिर तू truck लगवा रहा था, और फिर तू gym बेच रहा था, और अब तू toothpaste बेच रहा है." चलो बहुत सही है.
Nice. And you?
For me, it's been care of dentist पे शायद पैसे कम लगे.
Oh, that's like more validating.
But that's also with a lot of sarcasm and the kind of face expressions that I got. कि शायद कम लगे. So doubtful of our capabilities that we'll be able to do something good in this category. So yeah, I think that is one of the funniest and memorable remarks that I received.
Alright guys, thank you. And we've come with this to the end of our chat. I had a great time talking to both of y'all. I learned so much that I didn't know about your brand and about you too. What are your concluding thoughts on being on my show?
I think it was great having this conversation, because every conversation that we have, we also reflect upon, how our thoughts have evolved. And, if you have a similar conversation 2 years down the line, you'll see a very different different side of Jatan and Tushar and the brand as well. So I think it's a good conversation with you, and you had some really intriguing and intelligent questions. So I'm glad that we did this.
I think it was a great conversation. The set of questions were really thought through. I think you did like good homework on where you're sort of coming from, and even for us, I think I'm happy about the sort of insights we only because we intentionally, when sort of trying to build something, we don't take the time out to sort of sit and think or get our thoughts out aloud.
Right.
I think it's like a great way to just get my own thoughts and like listen to them out aloud. That's very refreshing and wonderful also, like very breezy, nice.
And we hope it's the same for everybody and all our viewers. Great having both of y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simran.